this is the first of two UDL reflections I just chose to choose from. This is the s'more option, and I used this one for weeks 3 through 4 when we were talking about our classroom demographics and how CSP, SJ, and UDL can be used in our standards. I remember I liked this one because I made the decision to go and basically, instead of just purely focus on history/social studies, I decided to also look at both language arts and mathematics for CSP and UDL. And when talking about that, I realized it allowed me a chance to think about how these ideas affect different subjects differently. I kind of actually go really well into this with what are some possible challenges when trying to incorporate these ideas. And here I mention how I can very easily incorporate the ideas of SJE into subjects such as history and language arts because a lot of the subject matter itself focuses on or has the opportunity to focus on SJE. You know, just history in general is full of it, or at least I guess, or say the lack of. And as a teacher, you can then use that as an opportunity to introduce SJE into it, if that makes sense. But I then say how I found it difficult, or at the time, I found it difficult to incorporate SJE into math or science convincingly. And now, looking back and reading that again for this assignment, I kind of realized and thought about it a little bit more that you can actually probably really could incorporate SJE into math or science convincingly, but I'm sure there's a way to do it this way as well. But the idea I have is that you're incorporating it in a different way with those subjects. So my idea for SJE in history and language arts was the subject matter itself, right? What you're teaching, what you're showing, how you're showing it, the purpose of why you're showing it, yada yada. But with math or science, you instead can use just SJE to affect the actual mechanics of what you're teaching and how you're teaching it, and um, affecting traditional biases and whatnot. And by that, I'm talking about the obvious, now to me obvious, um, long running stigma in education that men are generally proficient at math or science subjects, while women are traditionally proficient at history and language arts. And obviously, that is stigma is absolutely chock full of biasy because everybody's different. And so, now thinking about it in that light, you could use things like SJE to fight against that stigma, fight against that long running and invalid bias in science and math by creating opportunities for everyone in your classroom equally to be proficient at it and to succeed and to go above and beyond. And so that's the main reason why I chose to look at my s'mores UDL influence reflection, because I thought that bringing that up and talking about it was pretty important. Now, going on to my other um, reflection I talked about, this was for the written, and this is for weeks 7 through 8. This is basically talking about that learning objective we as a class, or I think it was selective groups made during a class meeting, and I chose this one because it was pretty cool to go back and reflect and seeing how we thought about why we made our learning objectives the way we did compared to how we made our final learning objective with our actual uh, groups for our lesson plans. So this one, obviously, it was scholars will be able to explain how HSS 1271. Scholars will be able to explain how conflicts between levels of government and branches of government are resolved through blog journals, outlines, or mind maps with 5 examples. So it's very interesting seeing basically my explanation down here about how the products that we chose, the activities that we made, will examine or assess our students in a very much more, I'd say, direct and almost robotic way. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's the way I saw it. And how in my lesson plan, or my group's lesson plan, we decided to basically go for a much more, I guess, suppose it's different content standards, so maybe a little bit hard to explain. But pretty much, we chose three activities that would both represent the content standard really well, work with it really well, while also creating activities and how we did it that would pretty much engage the students the most. Because, like I mentioned in our learning objective, we wanted to use social learning theory a lot, and so in that we used the co-teaching model of station teaching, which allowed the students to choose where they want to go and work at, and then it incentivizes working together, and that was using flashcards, mind map, and Google searches, Google Earth in that case. And so it's very cool to be able to go back, read through this whole document, and understand why we, as a different group in that class, chose what we did versus what me and my group chose what to do with our actual learning objective for our lesson plan. I thought that was interesting.